Have you ever noticed how big problems rarely start big? They usually start small. Small things like jokes that slightly fell off, a delay that isn't a big deal, or a false assumption about you. If you've ever been in those situations, then you know that in those moments, nothing felt serious enough for you to confront. So usually, we just let go. If you're new here, hi, I'm Tiffany, and this is a part of the Lead Yourself series. I'm building a framework to help us make clear decisions at work and in relationships without overreacting, disappearing, or quietly losing influence. I'm an experienced business manager and a school teacher who has made a lot of mistakes and learned from them. I'm not a psychiatrist or a therapist. I'm just sharing what I've seen and experienced so you don't have to waste extra time and effort making the same mistakes that cost you more than they should. In the last episode, we talked about the first signal, the subtle pause in your body before regret, the tension that shows up before your thoughts fully organize. Because those small moments, they're often tests, and usually they're unconscious ones. Most people aren't sitting there thinking, let's see how much I can get away with. They're sensing your flexibility, your standards, your threshold. And at the same time, your nervous system is sensing and adjusting too. Think about the first time you walked into a room or joined a new environment. You're more sensitive than usual. You're watching people and they're watching you. As you start interacting, you exchange opinions, preferences, reactions. And little by little, both sides pick up on things. Tone, pacing, body language, what gets ignored, what gets addressed. That's calibration. Those are the signals we've been talking about, just amplified. So let's connect this to the framework we've been building so far. We've talked about tension as the early signal, calm without clarity as silent erosion, invisible rules, how repeated behaviors turn into expectation. If these ideas sound unfamiliar, I'll link the playlist down below. In this episode, we add another layer. Early responses create direction. Here's the pattern. A signal happens, your body notices it, and pauses, then you respond. Most of our responses are defaults, tied to our personalities or habits, especially when we haven't trained ourselves otherwise. So the same response tends to repeat. According to cognitive science, our brain is a pattern recognition machine. It looks for simple sequences, 1, 2, 3, to decide whether something is a trend. In practice, that means if you respond the same way a few times, it becomes a pattern. And patterns form expectations, and expectations shape how people treat you, and eventually how you treat yourself. So the chain often looks like this: signal, response, pattern, expectation, identity. And usually it starts with something that looks insignificant, very small. Now, what happens if you keep this framework in mind and actually put your self-leading skills into practice? Picture this. Someone says, "Oh, just ask her or him. He or she will be happy to help." And then they look at you. In a way, you're forced into the role. And sometimes that's fine, but other times you're exhausted, overwhelmed, or simply don't have the capacity. Now, let's replay the same scenario with more awareness. Someone says the same thing, everyone turns to look at you. This time, you notice the pause in your body. Instead of replying automatically, you respond, "Let me check my schedule and I'll get back to you." No drama, no confrontation, and in that moment, you gain more authority, more time, and more options. That small adjustment does two things. First, it recalibrates expectations early. Second, it reinforces the self-image you're trying to build. When you respond early and clearly, your nervous system actually relaxes afterward because the tone and boundaries are already set. There's no resentment quietly building in the background. There's no mental scoreboard. Let's compare that to the old pattern, where you smile and say yes. Later, you feel a little irritated. It happens again and again. And by the fourth time, it's no longer about the help you're providing. It's about feeling taken for granted. Unfortunately, if you choose to push back strongly now, friction is almost guaranteed. Not because you're wrong, but because the expectation was already set. That's why setting momentum early matters. It saves time, energy, and emotional cost later. The earlier you practice the skill, the less noise and friction you deal with overall. If you want to see where these signals show up in your life, you can use the free worksheet linked down below. The more you use it, the clearer your patterns become. Because when early responses create direction, that direction compounds. It shapes how much weight your words carry in the room. It shapes how quickly people respond to you. It also shapes whether your input is optional or essential. And over time, if that direction isn't intentional, you don't get interrupted loudly, you just slowly get taken less seriously. Getting ignored rarely starts with loud disrespects. It usually starts with small inconsistencies, small moments and tiny adjustments where we teach people we're flexible in ways we didn't intend to be. When your responses are inconsistent, people don't know where your line is. And when they don't know where the line is, They test, and not always consciously, sometimes naturally, unconsciously. Anyway, that's it for today. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!